Can you hear me when I press the button?
Yes, we can hear you. There's presentation one. So I believe I have everyone here. And Chairwoman Jackson, I am ready when you are.
Okay, thank you. Let me just silence my phone here since that appears to be going off. Okay. It is 6:01 and we are opening the Gloucester Conservation Commission meeting of August 18th, 2021, starting off with the administrative briefing.
Sure. So I'm just going to kick it off with the top lines of the agenda and say welcome to the Wednesday, August 18th meeting of the Gloucester Conservation Commission. Consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. Persons who wish to do so are invited to view the meeting at the Zoom link located on the City of Gloucester website, remote meetings, under the Conservation Commission meeting, and also on the meeting notice and agenda. You can also dial by phone. The information is provided also along with the agenda and the calendar event. In the event that a live transmission proves unworkable for any reason, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the meeting will be made available on the city's website as soon as possible.
Thank you, Adrian. And perhaps you could take a roll call of commissioners who are present prior to moving on to other business so the public knows who's here.
Sure. Roll call for commissioners. Commissioner Charpentier.
Here.
Commissioner Cook.
I saw him. He was coming on. We'll give him a minute.
I'm here.
I see him.
Oh,
I'm here.
Bill, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Okay,
Yep, we can
good.
hear you. There you go.
I'm just running in the other room to get my minutes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Here.
Commissioner Sargent.
Here.
Co-Chairman Della is absent tonight, and Chairwoman Jackson will be running the meeting for us.
Okay. Under administrative briefing, we have a commission statement regarding remote meetings.
Sure. So as you have probably seen, the City of Gloucester actually just sent out a reverse 911 through the Board of Health with recommendations for the public in terms of COVID and best practices for trying to prevent the spread of COVID. The city has asked all boards, committees, and commissions to respond with their decision as far as whether or not they would like to return to in-person meetings or remain in a remote setting at this time. I did poll all the commissioners, and the general consensus was to remain remote at this time as long as possible due to the unknown factors around the spread of COVID, and also because the remote meeting format is working so well for us. So I'd like the commission to approve a memo regarding remote public meetings, and that the commission shall at this time remain in a remote environment for as long as is necessary.
Okay, would you like us to vote to ratify that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Linda, would you like to make a motion to approve the memo read by Adrian?
I will. Charpentier moves to approve the memo regarding remote meetings as read by our agent.
And Gradwell seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Co-Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and Adrian, I would also like to thank you for your guidance in setting up these meetings and making our commission so successful in operating remotely. We appreciate your efforts.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Okay. Next up is the public comment period.
Sure.
And
Before you
whoops.
begin public comment, if I can just add this in, this came up a little bit this afternoon and just over the course of the last cycle. This is for applicants representatives, and other members of the public participating. I get a lot of the emails directly to A. Lennon at gloucester-ma.gov for notice of intent, ANRAD, RDA, extension requests, and request for certificate of compliance applications. If all of our applicants can please copy conservation@gloucester-ma.gov, that would be very helpful, especially for supplemental materials that come in after the fact, and also abutter comments. This is the clearinghouse. It's managed by both myself and my clerk, and we can be certain that everything actually makes it into the administrative record in a timely manner if it goes to that email address. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention. Okay, next up is public comment, where any member in the audience who wishes to speak on an item of environmental concern that is not already on the agenda has an opportunity to do so. Do we have anybody in the public with their hand raised? You can raise your hand by using the raise your hand button, or on a smartphone, dial what, *9? Is that what it is?
*9.
Thank you.
Okay, there are 34 attendees. We have 10 panelists. I do think I'm going to have to promote some attendees up into a panelist position when the time comes. But there are no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, then I will close the public comment period. Next up, we have minutes review and approval. There were 2 sets of minutes on the agenda, that of July 21st, 2021, and that of August 4th, 2021. The only one that I saw on the agenda on the drive was August 4th. And you said, Adrian, that the July one did not make it?
Yeah, so the July one, it looks like August 4th was uploaded twice. So we'll have to continue July, and hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to review August 4, and I'll connect with my clerk.
Okay, we can just table July without a vote, can't we?
That's correct.
Okay, then we'll consider that tabled. And otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes for August 4th as amended.
Charpentier moves to approve the minutes of August 4th, 2021 as amended.
And Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call: Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes?
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. Going into continued business, I'm just going to step in here very quickly. I don't know if all of our commissioners had the opportunity to review the revised agenda I posted this afternoon. We had quite a few requests for continuance. RDA 1703 Salt Island requested to continue to September 15th. NOI 02827866573 Essex Avenue requested to continue to September 1st. And NOI 028278897 Coles Island Road requested to continue to September 15th.
September 15th?
Oh,
I have
September
September
1st. Excuse me, September 1st.
Okay, okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So first up under continued business is RDA 1703 for Salt Island with their request to continue to September 15th. I will entertain such a motion.
Charpentier moves to continue RDA 1703 Salt Island LLC to September 15th.
Gradwell seconds.
And roll call: Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes?
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. And NRAD 0282765 for 171 to 281 Rear Magnolia Avenue. Mike DeRosa representing, was previously continued to September 15th, so we don't need to vote on that. And next up, we have NOI 028XXXX, 167 Atlantic Street, lots 1 through 3 plans.
Yes, so
Okay.
this is an interesting story here. Hold on.
Oh dear, okay.
Okay, here's Chris. So the DEP, I didn't change it on the slides or in the agenda. So the DEP had issued permit numbers for lot 1 and lot 3, but not lot 2, which we've been working this project for a couple of months now. They had requested additional fees from the applicant, and the applicant, when they sent in additional fees, also sent in revised notice of intent paperwork. And apparently on the DEP end, they didn't actually connect those to the previous applications and considered them as new notice of intent applications. And so now there is a duplicate on the DEP dashboard, which is what I saw when I posted the agenda. It looked like they had actually redacted the numbers. But we worked it out a little bit this afternoon. So they do in fact have permit numbers for lot 1 and 3. They're going to have to connect with the circuit rider at DEP to square away the duplication. They do not have a permit number for number 2. And Chris Barajas is here tonight to represent the project and talk about some new material that he submitted. So I can see you with your hand up. I'm going to promote you to panelist, and you can take it from there. I know I did speak with your colleague earlier, Thor Akerley, and let him know that I was going to put the A&R plan at the top, so you could start from the top with your comments.
Okay, great. Thank you. Before we get started tonight, I noticed that that Mr. Gull is not present.
That is correct. He is not here tonight.
Now, I think he was also not present for the first hearing.
Then he may not. I mean, he can opt to sign a Mullen and approve the minutes, review and approve the minutes and watch the recording, or he may abstain and we will still have enough commissioners to vote.
Right. I wanted to make sure that that we had, because he had a lot of comments on the plan. I wanted him to make sure that he was able to participate because tonight would be the second meeting that he's missed.
That's correct, and that would be a problem.
However, he is very faithful about listening to the recordings.
It's the recordings, listening to the recordings and reading the minutes can only be done once on any project.
Okay.
Right. That's what I was driving at, Adrian. Not that I want to continue because we have a lot of good information. We worked really hard in between this meeting and the last one.
Oh yeah. That is your prerogative.
Right.
We cannot work around that. It's true.
Right. So when is the next public hearing? If I may ask, I should have been paying attention.
September 1.
September 1st. So in the past, it's always nice to have the folks that had a lot of comments be able to continue to comment and be part of the public hearing process. Mr. Gullah had a lot of comments. I think it would be best if it's okay with you, Adrian, and the commissioners, if we just continued it and didn't introduce any new testimony tonight.
Okay. That's fine.
As much as I'd like to.
That's okay. It's gonna be
maybe we can straighten
September 1 is gonna be a long night, everyone.
Maybe we can straighten out DEP in the meantime.
Yes, that will have to be worked out too, of course, so that they're not.
Yeah, I'm very sorry, but it'll just give you a little bit more time to review what we submitted. So I apologize, but we'll be back on the 1st.
That's okay. Thank you for thinking of that. And I think that's intelligent of you to try to keep it all together with the same number of commissioners.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sorry we didn't let you know that.
That's perfectly okay. I'm home and my wife is going to be excited actually. So
I can understand that completely. And actually, I didn't know that Rob was not going to be here until like day before yesterday or yesterday. So Okay, so shall we continue all three lots to what date would you like? September?
September 1st, if you have room for us. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Then Linda, I will entertain a motion to continue the project at 167 Atlantic Street, lots 1, 2, and 3, no DEP numbers signed, to the meeting of September 1st.
Can we do these as a group or do we need to do these individually?
You can take them together.
Okay, Charpentier moves to continue the following projects to the meeting of September 1st. NOI 028-2785, 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 1. NOI 028, no DEP number, 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 2. NOI 028-2784, 167 Atlantic Street, Lot 3.
And Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Have a
Thank
nice
Enjoy your evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, next up, we have NOI 0282786, 65 to 73 Essex Avenue, who has requested to continue to September 1st. Linda?
Charpentier moves to continue the project. NOI 028-2786 at 65 to 73 Essex Avenue to the meeting of September 1st.
and Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next up, we have NOI 0282788, 97 Coles Road, and they have requested to continue to the meeting of September 1st. Linda?
Charpentier moves to continue the project NOI 0282788, 97 Coles Island Road to the meeting of September 1st.
and Gradwell seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that wipes out new business, old business pretty well. Right. Let's see what we can do in new business. Okay, next up, we have RDA 1706, 45 Cart Track Drive. I left out track when I made my notes. And 190 Atlantic Road. Do we have a representative here for that?
We do.
Excellent.
I'm moving him through to panel.
Okay, and if that representative could provide name and address and a brief summary of the project, I would appreciate it.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Luke Stuntz. I'm a biological technician and invasive species coordinator at the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, Parker River National Wildlife Refuge. Just as a quick note, on the meeting agenda, the representative was listed as Robert Cahill, which I presume is just an error. Representative on the application, and the primary applicant was a biologist at Parker River National Wildlife Refuge. But going into the project itself, so perennial pepperweed is an invasive non-native plant that's spread throughout Essex County. It primarily invades salt marshes, estuaries, wetlands, but it can also invade roadsides and sandy areas. It spreads through seed distribution as well as rhizome spreading, and it has a very extensive root structure that extends 60 centimeters into the soil that will then sprout every year if even a 3-centimeter fragment is left behind in the soil. And so the primary reason that we're worried about this invasive plant is that it forms very dense monotypic stands that crowd out native plants, especially important native salt marsh grasses and marsh elder. So that sort of woody herbaceous vegetation that's really important for native species, particularly the salt marsh sparrow, which is borderline endangered within this region. And so left unchecked, this plant will spread and displace valuable habitat throughout the region. So the plant began spreading in about the late 1990s, and we began treating it in 2006. So during that time, the Parker River National Wildlife Refuge teamed up with the Massachusetts Audubon Society to form the Great Marsh Perennial Pepperweed Control Project. We also worked with the trustees, the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, contracted herbicide applicators, and hundreds of volunteers to treat this plant throughout the county and specifically throughout the Great Marsh. As of 2021, we annually treat over 1,000 stands of perennial pepperweed, and the densest areas of this infestation are in Salisbury, Newburyport, Newbury, kind of in Rowley, and Ipswich. So Gloucester really represents the southern end of the plant spread throughout Essex County. At the moment, there are about 8 stands within Gloucester. So there's one patch on the northern edge of the peninsula at Cart Track Drive, specifically at Hodgkins Cove. And there's another patch at Atlantic Road on the southern edge of the peninsula, really just lining the road on the ocean side. There was one additional patch at the intersection of Route 128 that was discovered in 2017, but after 3 years of treatment, perennial pepperweed has been eradicated at this site. So we're really looking at low density infestations in this area, the sort of thing that we can treat by hand pulling in one day in a few hours with some volunteers. And so this means that we can really look to contain the spread of pepperweed within Gloucester, to quickly detect and treat any new stands, and to hopefully eradicate pepperweed within the next 5 years or so. We've had plenty of success treating pepperweed within other areas of the Great Marsh, particularly within Amesbury and certain sections of Newburyport that used to look similar to Gloucester. So they are low density infestations that we were able to contain and slowly beat back over time. We primarily enlist 2 treatment methods, mechanical hand pulling and herbicidal treatment. We only treat on land where we have explicit written landowner permission. So we manage about 12,000 landowner permissions on parcels throughout the Great Marsh. And our primary mode of treatment is really hand pulling. And this is all we've done in Gloucester since 2010. So we first obtained an RDA in 2011, which was then renewed, extended in 2014, and then we were granted another RDA in 2018, which then expired in July of this year. But to this date, we've only hand pulled within Gloucester because we're really talking about low density infestations. And this has been enough to contain the plant and reduce its density at these sites. However, we're also seeking approval to use herbicides throughout the town of Gloucester in the event that it's necessary. So we primarily use herbicides at sites that are extremely dense and just realistically cannot be contained with hand pulling, or at sites where it's not safe to hand pull. So either if it's a tricky site to access, you have to use boats, or if there's dense areas of poison ivy within the area that we can't reasonably send volunteers or seasonal technicians. When we spray pesticides, we tend to use extremely low concentrations of pesticides. We specifically select herbicides that have low persistence within the soil and only target broadleaf plants. This allows us to avoid non-selective killing of native salt marsh grasses. But like I said, we aren't planning on using herbicides at the present, but in the event that a new infestation was discovered within the town of Gloucester that was extremely dense or that we were worried about spreading to new areas, we'd hope to act quickly with herbicide to beat it back over the course of 1 year. While hand pulling is great, herbicides are much more effective at reducing the density of these stands. In the event that a site like this did emerge that it was discovered and was allowed to spread, we could contact the Conservation Commission prior to use of any herbicide, but would have to act quickly within a week or so probably due to the short growing season and treatment window of perennial pepperweed. But with all this said, we do really hope to prevent the future spread of this harmful invasive throughout the town of Gloucester and to hopefully eradicate it within the next decade. It is a genuine possibility that this plant could be removed from the town altogether, and we hope to do that. However, if we leave it unchecked, we're extremely worried about spread of this plant within the Essex Bay and within the Annisquam River system and along the coast of the peninsula, which is where the current sites primarily are. We've had major success in other areas, and we believe that this success could be attained in Gloucester as well. you have any questions about this project, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm
Yeah.
going to open it up for public comment first, and then we will move on to commissioner questions. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 45 Cart Track Drive and 190 Atlantic Road in terms of pepperweed removal?
So I have one hand up at this time, and I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name.
Mary Ellen LaBianca. I'm just curious what effect the herbicide would have on wildlife and birds in particular.
Yeah, so this herbicide is absorbed into the plant extremely quickly. When I say this herbicide, I'm specifically referring to metsulfuron methyl. The trade name for that is Escort XB. So the herbicide is absorbed into the plant extremely quickly and then has low persistence within the plant itself beyond killing it. We don't know of any wildlife that feeds on perennial pepperweed, and we specifically only target this plant. So we wouldn't be seeing overspray of the pesticide onto other plants that might be foraged by local animals. We haven't seen any negative impact of the Escort XB on local wildlife.
Okay.
Are there any other hands up, Adrian? Adrian?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then I will close the public comment period, and we can go through commissioner comments.
Sure. Commissioners. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes, this Escort XB, it's the chemist in me. I think I would like to see the safety data sheet. And I would definitely, before any use of that material, really would like to have that come before the commission again and present that safety data sheet.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to share the safety data sheet. And hopefully in the course of a season, so the treatment season ranges from really the last week of May into about mid-July. It depends on when the seeds drop. And hopefully the workflow that we could use would be that we would treat Gloucester early in the season. So that's what we did this year. We pulled these sites within, I think, the second week of June. And if we came across a site that for some reason we determined that it needed herbicidal treatment, we could contact the Conservation Commission immediately to get that on the next possible agenda for the commission, discuss that, and then treat it in early mid-July.
The other question that I have is that you've used the term pesticide and herbicide. Is this an herbicide or a pesticide?
This is an herbicide. I'm using pesticide in the umbrella sense that I'm a licensed pesticide applicator, but this is specifically an herbicide.
Okay. And effect on aquatic toxicity?
Yeah, so Escort XB is only approved for use above the mean high water line. It's not approved for aquatic use. But perennial pepperweed, although it's a salt marsh plant, primarily grows at the terrestrial salt marsh border. So it is never below the mean high water line. In the event that for some reason we found a stand that was below the mean high water line, we do have an alternative formulation we use that contains both imazapyr and glyphosate, but that hasn't been used in 3 or 4 years. I don't anticipate it being used in Gloucester, and if it was, we would have a separate discussion about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Charpentier. I'm sorry, Commissioner Cook.
Yeah, the only question I have is, how do you go about it making identifications of where this is located?
Yeah, so that's somewhat of an impromptu process. So we treat from June through July, and at the end of July, it's no longer quite effective to treat because the seeds have begun to drop, the plant has begun to senesce. It's still very easy to map. So it's that late time in July that we tend to take boats out along creeks, along coastlines, and survey for pepperweed. It's very conspicuous. It's very easy to see it as bright white flowers. It forms dense stands on the otherwise barren salt marsh. So it's very easy to see. So we've done significant mapping of Essex Bay this summer. We're hoping to get more mapping completed in the Annisquam system and along the coast of Gloucester, but that really just comes down to capacity. We rely very heavily on sightings reported by volunteers. We work with over 100 volunteers within Essex County, lots of people involved in the project through Mass Audubon, our school teachers who have brought the project to their students, just local landowners. And we rely a lot upon local reporting for that.
Okay, so if we wanted, because I happen to live along Coffins Beach.
Yep.
So if I wanted to get involved and get a better understanding of what to look for.
Yeah, so this project, as I mentioned, is a collaboration with the Massachusetts Audubon Society. The leader of the project on that end is David Moon. And he's planning a series of talks this fall to hope to get landowners more engaged. So there would be public presentations that landowners could go to learn about plant identification, learn about how to help the project. And so we're hoping to expand awareness of this problem throughout Gloucester, because we have very, very involved landowners in Newburyport and Ipswich, but because Gloucester's more at the fringe, there's not as much awareness of this issue. So we're hoping to run some of those public programs and get more local involvement.
Okay, and how would we go about attending any one of these? Is there going to be some type of public notice?
I'm going to interrupt you here. I'm sorry, Luke.
Yeah, no worries.
So I know David Moon very well, and I believe he's actually going to be presenting as part of a Conservation Commission meeting, or the commission actually will be trying to host some part of his public outreach campaign.
Yeah, so I don't have the final details on his public outreach. That's something we're planning. We just finished treatment, so I think everybody's a little bit exhausted with pepperweed for the moment. But we're hoping to run those programs this fall, and I'll have details that I can inform you with.
Okay, that would be fine. Be interested in it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Gradwell.
No further comment, and he's doing a very nice job of presentation.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sargent.
Yes, I'm familiar with this initiative way back in 2010 with Liz Duff. And it's been working really well with hand pulling in Gloucester. And I'm really not in favor of using a nuclear option of using pesticides, many which are damage to aquatic life, particularly what you mentioned, and as well as glyphosate, which is commonly known as Roundup. So those are my comments.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. And once again, we would take the decision to use herbicides within Gloucester very seriously. You call it a nuclear option because it is a bit like that. We would use that in the event that we expected massive imminent spread of this plant. There are areas within Salisbury, Newbury, and Ipswich that it is frankly impossible to treat by hand. There's simply too much of it. But we're really not looking at that in Gloucester. It would have to spread unchecked for multiple years to get to that point, and we can hopefully avoid that with continuous, effective, thorough treatment.
Okay, and Chairwoman Jackson.
Thank you. The goal is laudable. I think that's wonderful. And it sounds like you are expecting to eradicate Gloucester simply through hand pulling, which would be a wonderful achievement. You did say that there would not be overspray. I was concerned about that when you said that the herbicide would only be used in places that might not be safe to go. So I was wondering how you control the width of the spray. Is there a wand that you control that with and target?
Yeah, so we use backpack sprayers with automatic pressurized nozzles. We spray only when wind speeds are below 10 miles an hour. We typically spray about 4 inches from the plant surface so that all of the droplets, and we use a fine mist, but not too fine so it doesn't drift in the wind. We spray close enough to the plant that all of the droplets ideally just hit the pepperweed. If there is any overspray, it would hit the grasses beneath it, which once again, this herbicide doesn't affect because it's a broadleaf herbicide. If pepperweed is mixed in with native marsh elder, which is a broadleaf plant. We try to avoid using herbicides at all costs and just hand pull, as any overspray of herbicide on the marsh elder would impact.
Okay, you know your stuff. Thank you. Much appreciated. It was an interesting presentation and it sounds like an effective campaign. This is an RDA. Linda, are you ready to?
Yes, Charpentier moves for a negative determination for RDA-1706 at 45 Cart Track Drive and 190 Atlantic Road.
Bradwell seconds.
The roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes, for hand pulling.
Okay, so I don't know that we can do that. We have to either be approving the RDA as it was presented or voting to not approve it.
However, we do have it on record that he will contact us and present to the commission prior to using an herbicide.
Which is fine. And you're welcome to a protest vote. Commissioner Sargent.
Then no.
Okay. The determination passes. And I will be following up with you, Luke, for the MSDS sheets and other conditional information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
And I did vote for the negative determination on that. I was simply clarifying for Mr. Sargent that we had it on record.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, next up, we have amendment 0282755 8 Riverside Drive with John Judd at Gateway Consultants, Inc., representing Caruso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, John Judd, professional engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing Mr. Caruso, who I believe is in attendance tonight. This is a notice of intent amendment request for the order conditions that were issued back in January. This is improvements proposed to an existing single-family dwelling at 8 Riverside Road at the end of Wheeler's Point. And the reason we're here to request this amendment is subsequent to the initial plan approval. Mr. Caruso went for his building permit with Mr. Sanborn at the building department. And it was determined that the improvements that were proposed exceeded 50% of the value of the structure, and the FEMA requirements for work within a flood zone. This property is partially, you can see the elevation 13, which is the dark dash line about midway across. Thank you, Adrian. That triggers requirements for the reconstruction to meet FEMA in its entirety. So essentially, the mechanicals that are in the present basement of the existing dwelling need to be brought up above elevation 13. The first floor of that existing dwelling is about 14.8. So we're well above the flood elevation. However, the existing, because of that situation where the entire structure has to be brought into conformance, a whole new mechanical room needed to be brought upstairs to meet their FEMA requirements. So that's what we're here requesting, is an expansion to that footprint. You can see on the landward side of the structure, there's about a 700 square foot addition to what was proposed and approved initially. And we're proposing through the impervious lot coverage table to basically balance the site and remove paved areas and impervious areas you can see that we're going to be basically removing what we're adding. We are showing drainage in accordance with the drainage ordinance for the city engineering department approval. and removing quite a bit of impervious pavement area to offset the proposed improvements on this amended plan. So that's the proposed alterations, and myself and Mr. Caruso can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. I'll open this up first for public comment. We will hear all of the comments prior to your response to them, Mr. Judd.
Sure.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 8 Riverside Road, an amendment?
So there are 15 attendees on the call right now, and I do not see any hands up to comment on the project.
Okay, then I'll close the public comment period. Adrian, do you have any input into this project?
Well, I will say that, we're doubling the size of the home as it's going to be improved. I do think the applicant has made a special effort here to try to figure out how to offset the amount of impervious surface that there's going to be on the site. It's a very steep site. So I would like to see us some dry wells and some stormwater management on the upland side for the runoff from the gutter system or whatever is going to be on the new roof line here, so that we don't just have a tremendous amount of sheet flow coming right down on top of the coastal bank on the resource area.
Okay. Okay, let's go through commissioner comments.
Sure. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes, could you tell me, I'm curious to know what the difference is in the impervious area before and then after the addition?
Yeah, so thank you, Adrian, for putting that up. That is, Linda, that's the approved plan that you see in front of you. And then the proposed plan was, yes, thank you. So it's approximately 700 square feet of an additional impervious area for the roof lines proposed.
Okay. And the amount of impervious that was taken out matches that in entirety?
It does. So if you look, you can see the paved areas that currently exist will be taken out and replaced with a pervious surface.
Okay, that's all. I have.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Cook.
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwell.
This is actually an improvement in that this house will now be compliant.
With FEMA, that's correct. Commissioner Sargent.
Yeah, in addition to echoing Adrian's comments about stormwater management, I want to make sure that any work doesn't block public access to the old wharf landing, and material for the proposed pervious pier must be non-toxic to the marine environment.
Okay. Co-chair or Chairwoman Jackson.
Sorry, just jotting down notes. No comments. Okay, so it looks like we have conditions of putting in some dry wells, some stormwater management on the upland side, not interfering with public access during the work period, and use of non-toxic materials. Was there anything else? Did I miss anything?
Oh, I think the option is there.
Okay. Are commissioners happy with that to move forward with the amendment? I don't hear any. Okay, I don't hear any objections. Okay, Linda, take it away.
Charpentier moves to approve amendment 028-2755 at 8 Riverside Road with the aforementioned conditions.
Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwall,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have, you're welcome. Next up, we have NOI 028 unassigned DEP number at 237 East Main Street with Brinksman LLC.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is my last item of John Judd for the applicant, who is Kyle Grant, trustee of Brinksman LLC. And also on the Zoom call as a participant is Joseph Borland, who I believe both Kyle and Joe have had interactions and meetings, both site meetings and public hearings with this commission relative to the repair of this this commercial pier at 237 East Main Street. And thank you, Adrian, for putting that up. The GIS locus map is shown there, and we have proposed, well, included the site plan that would basically replace the pier in phases in kind of where it is now, same elevation, same location. And we've had a structural engineer involved with this project to properly design, and there is an attached structural design included with this. There have been, again, previous site visits and meetings with the applicants and the commission and Adrian, and which I sort of came in after the fact to prepare this plan that shows the more specific details that are in phases of the proposed reconstruction. We are aware that it has not received a file number, so we understand that the hearing cannot be closed, but Joseph and Kyle would like to sort of maybe recap where we were with this project, if that's okay, Adrian, and we can answer any questions that you might have. If maybe allow Joe to speak, that would be great.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Adrian?
Yep.
Great. Just want to thank the commission for hearing us again. So in review, we came before the commission, I believe in April, for an emergency repair permit to stabilize the southwest corner of the pier, to drive some pilings in there to keep it safe for the intended use over the summer months, and then use this time frame to cross our T's and dot the I's on a real good plan, accurate plan, thanks to John, with a new survey, a new site plan that shows the specifics of the new piling locations, the construction sequence, and puts everything together in one plan that we can all follow throughout the repair of the facility. And the intention is really to just bring this property and pier back up to a safe and usable condition for its intended use. It's in a bit of a state of disrepair now, and there are some pieces that we've deemed unsafe, but basically it's Brinksman LLC wants to just repair as is and get this pier usable and safe. So there's no real intended expansion or other facets to the project.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We're going to open this up for public comment, and we will listen to all comments prior to your response, and then we will move through the commission. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 237 East Main Street?
We now have 11 attendees because everyone is making their way onto the panel. And no comments from the public.
Okay, then I'll close the public comment period. Let's go through commissioner comments, and Adrian, I would like to hear from you on this one. It's a big project. You can choose either before or after our comments.
Sure, I'll let everyone else go first and then I'll offer my my comments. So Commissioner Charpentier,
I have none at this time.
Commissioner Cook,
Just two quick ones. You're going to be replacing, so you're going to be taking, are you going to be removing the existing ones? Or are you going to be cutting them? That's one question. And then the decking that's on top of the existing pier, is that going to be kind of like rolled back as you're replacing them as you go? I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to be driving in new piles with the decking over it. So what the sequence of work is going to be, whether you're taking everything out, removing everything, and then putting it back in. And then the other one, which is minor, is the dumpster needs to be covered they need to make sure that the dumpster is covered each night.
okay. Commissioner Gradwell,
I was very concerned about the removal of the piers that Mr. Cook has addressed. So we'll wait for the answer on that. The other thing is that some of the piers floats appear to be outside of your land. And we generally are very, very careful about not passing anything that is not within the limits of what is owned by the applicant.
okay. Commissioner Sargent,
I'm very glad that, this is going to be maintained. But I also noticed that in the revised plan that there's a proposed float extension, which is an additional add-on, if you will. And I'm not sure if this is going to be a 10A or is the Chapter 91 going to be amended? And I don't know, because it's a proposed float extension, if we need to have comments from the harbor master, Shellfish, or DMF.
okay. Co-Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes, this looks like an enormous project. Feel like there should be more going on here. Are you going to need to, I don't know, do any dredging? Or I do have the same questions about the pilings. Are they going to be removed, cut off? I just feel like there's information that we usually request that I'm not putting my finger on. So I'm going to let Adrian talk a little bit.
okay, sure. So I think, we have to continue this anyways, and so we can work on it a little bit in the interim period. I think one of the important points that comes through here is that the property is not in the DPA, and the notice of intent reflects that it is. And so I know when the DEP reviews this, they're going to come back with questions about that. And I think it's important that we establish now that what the work intends to do is rise to the performance standards of the resource areas that are present on the site. So I'm going to be interested to find out if we have a delineation for the top of Coastal Bank, which I think we do know where it is. And then also, the overlay does show this as tidal flats. I don't think that the Division of Marine Fisheries is going to have any concerns because it is in Gloucester Harbor. However, typically they do comment, and their comments are usually, we have no concerns. But going through the process of notifying the division that we're going to be doing this work or approving it is part of the notice of intent procedure. In addition to that, obviously, I do think this needs to go out to the harbor master and to the Shellfish Constable for their comments for the same reason as division, even though I don't think that there actually is any shellfish in the area. But I do think it is in their overlay for habitat. whether or not they're going to have to come through and do some test borings for the soil is an open question. I don't think so, depending on how we handle the piers. And I may actually consult with one of the analysts at DEP as to, for the number of piers, it may be better to cut them rather than pull them, because it's going to just disturb a very significant area if we're trying to remove all of those piers, unless for some reason the applicant really wants it to be handled differently. Other than that, it is a large project. A timeline would be very helpful in terms of how long we expect all of that concrete to come up off of the pier and be moved into dumpsters. I imagine it's going to be multiple dumpsters, and the location of that should be shown on the plan. I know what it says in the driveway. However, I also know where the driveway is. And so I think we just need a more robust discussion about the resource areas that are present, the activities that are going to take place in the resource areas. And then, of course, there's going to be some diversity in agencies and departments that need to weigh in. I do think everybody wants to see this happen, and I think it's an achievable project. We just need to think about it a little bit more.
Thank you, Adrian.
Welcome.
Okay,
I can answer some of those questions.
go for it.
Okay. So the pilings, as of right now, it would be our intention to cut the pilings off and not remove them, to try to minimize the impact to the area. Unless there was some special occurrence where we had to go directly from an engineering standpoint into the same spot, which at this point, we don't think that's going to be an issue. The construction sequence and the removal of the pier, a lot of that, or a significant part of that pier, is actually an impervious precast cement plates or slabs, which we would systematically remove. You can see on the drawing there, it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, 4, and 5. In sequence, we would move from the harbor back towards the land. So we would basically take the deck off, take the what's wood and what's concrete off of the top of the pier, systematically disposing of it, removing it, and then going into the to the bents, removing any of the old bents, and then cutting the pilings, and then basically rebuilding phase 1, and then repeating the process to phase 2, 3, 4, and 5. The dumpster, there's significant amount of area up in that phase 4 and phase 5 area for dumpsters to be placed, and certainly absolutely covered at the end of every day for any of the debris. A boom would be put out around in the water around the entire pier during all this sequence. Of course, the floats that are there, John can comment as to how they're, if it's going to be an addendum, and how that additional float is going to be addressed within the permitting process. The harbor master, I believe, has delivered comment on this, and we're going to another meeting anyhow, but we can provide harbor master's comments as well as Shellfish comments, being in, I believe, an exclusion zone, but maybe John can comment on that a little bit. But the harbor master himself, the harbor master and the Shellfish warden have been down there and done a site visit, and are very familiar with the property. But we can certainly, if we don't already have them, we can certainly get their comments in writing. There's no dredging intended at the site. The just basically it's the support of the pier, the cutting off of the old pilings, removal, disposal properly, and then driving of the new pilings and building of the top deck. And John may have the actual square footage figured out, but I think it is important to keep in mind that with the removal of that cement and steel plate, and the new construction is wood, so we are creating quite a bit of pervious surface area to the entire site where right now it does not exist. So I'll let John comment on and maybe we can continue the discrepancy of the NOI relative to the DPA. And then, as far as happy to have the conversation for any sort of test borings, but we're not intending to do any because we're really intending to, as this project is large in the square footage, it's really just it's intending to stay the same, and our impact is going to be as little as we possibly can to rebuild the structure. But we can have that conversation, and we're happy to, if we have a knock list, we're happy to cross anything off the list that's necessary.
If I could, Madam Chair, just to touch on a few items mentioned by Mr. Sargent relative to the additional float. It is the intention to modify the existing Chapter 91 license. That was the original intent in going through that process for any modifications that may be shown. And again, these are existing floats that are out there, with the exception of the other one that's on the westerly side, the darker line one at the top. So that would be a modification, as well as any other floats that are out there that don't necessarily reconcile with the Chapter 91 license. So that was the intent, and we do fully intend on getting any comments from DMF, Shellfish, and the Harbor Master. It was my understanding that both the Harbor Master and Shellfish were involved with some preliminary site visits out here. It's my understanding historically that Smith Cove is not an active shellfish bed from my past work there. And as Joe pointed out, the piers are proposed to be cut and not removed. So it's the idea is to not disturb any of the soils that are in the substrata of the harbor in this location. So our homework right now is to continue to work with the Harbor Master and Shellfish and DMF, and we will do that. And again, as Joe pointed out, removing all this concrete it should be a benefit to the overall impervious condition of this site. That's really all we have at this point.
Do you
Okay.
want, I know there was a question about the timeline, and I think Kyle would be best served if you do want some comment on that. He probably has the best handle on an intended timeline.
Okay, that would be lovely.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. As far as the timeline is concerned, it would be our intent to try and tackle phase 1 and phase 2 this upcoming winter. Obviously, we have it set up in phase 1 through 5 format. However, it's my business partner and I's intent to accomplish all of this work in as much of an expedited fashion as possible. Obviously, we put it into phases in the event that we have a terrible winter. We'll be working with vendors and the contractors to, have things taken place in a construction process in place that will allow for us to, stop work if necessary and not negatively impact our operations on the pier, because obviously we do have to maintain its operating standards through the majority of the season. Obviously, we're trying to have as little impact as possible within Smith Cove and also for our own business. So it would be the intent to start work early this winter and to have things wrapped up by April 1st of 21 for phase 1 and 2 of this project.
Okay,
Of 22, okay.
yeah, April 22, I think he meant.
April of 22, yeah, 2022.
Excuse me.
We understood.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Excellent. And the only other item was just with the dumpsters. Adrian, I know you had brought up that obviously the driveway is an issue to get the dumpsters down there. I think just to clarify, it's our intent to work with the vendors to make sure that the dumpsters are brought in through the barge, and then they'll be placed so we can do the disposal. But just to clarify there, that's how they will be accessing the property, is via.
Okay. This is helpful, all helpful information for me. I have more questions, but I'm not going to belabor it. I think we can work it out outside of the hearing.
Excellent.
Okay, then if there's nothing further to be said on this, we will continue it. When would you like to continue it to?
September 1st, if possible.
Sure. All right.
I mean, John, Adrian, I'll ask you both. I understand that meeting is very well attended so far. I'd be happy to push to the 15th. If Adrian, that allows you and I and John and Joe to maybe circle and make sure we have everything covered on the knock list prior to the 15th, because certainly my business partner and I would like to move forward as quickly as possible. And if having a little more lead time would be helpful, Adrian, do you think that would be beneficial?
That would be great. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
we do appreciate you. Okay,
Likewise.
then Linda, I'll entertain a motion.
Charpentier moves to continue the project to NOI 028, no DEP number, at 237 East Main Street to the meeting of September 15th.
Gradwell seconds.
Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you
you.
all very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night, John.
All right, good night.
You're off early. Look at that.
Can have dinner.
Okay, next up is a project I will let Linda introduce because I am recusing myself from this.
So this is project in NOI 028, no DEP number, at 30 Atlantic Road. And the party is Kruger.
Okay, I see Dan Colbert as an attendee. I'm going to promote you to a panelist. What happened? Did nobody get their invitation tonight? Did it not go out? Commissioners, how did you get on as panelists?
I got an invitation.
We got invitations from you.
Well, thank you. Glad to hear they went out. Okay, Deb, go ahead.
This is not my project.
It's not.
No.
Oh, it's Dan's project. Where's Dan? Sorry about that. Hold on, let me try to find him. So my hold on. Who's that? Oh, there's Paul. Okay, I apologize. Here we go, Paul. Can you start your camera? There you are. Okay.
Okay, so I'm the homeowner. This is my project.
Mr. Kruger, could you state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, Paul Kruger, 30 Atlantic Road.
Okay,
So in 2016, I replaced a older house with a new house. I shrunk the house down a little bit. The old house had a deck and a fairly large slab of concrete underneath the deck, as you can see. When my wife and I put the new house in, for financial considerations, we couldn't do the deck at the time, but we removed that entire concrete slab and replaced it with loam and grass. And what we'd like to do now is basically replace the deck that had been with the old house, but instead of having a concrete slab and a walkway there, we're proposing to put just 3 footings in to hold the end of the deck. The other end will be attached to the breezeway. And thank you, Adrian. There are the design, the existing and what we propose to do.
And that's all. So. Go ahead, Linda.
shall we open this up to public comment?
Sure.
Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on this project at 30 Atlantic Road?
There are now 7 attendees on the call, and I see no members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, so seeing none, hearing none, we'll close the public comment period. And do you want to take commissioner comments at this point?
Sure. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Charpentier.
I have no comments on this.
Okay. Commissioner Cook.
Keep it, is the deck going to be covered, or is it just going to be an open deck?
It's an open deck.
Okay, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Well, actually, we may put up a sun shield in the design. There are some posts that come up to be able to put a sun shield, but that would come in the summertime and be removed in the winter.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
Just looking at the impervious and the fact that they took out the whole concrete slab that was there before, and planting a couple of bushes might not be such a bad idea, but that's the most.
We can definitely plant some shrubs at the end of the deck.
Thank you. That would greatly assist.
And Commissioner Sargent.
Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any buffer zones on the maps. So I'm a little confused as to.
There's a BBW up in the top.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay. And Chairwoman Jackson.
As recused.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. So nothing to follow here.
So not having a DEP number, we would need to continue this.
So this project is the only new business item that saw a new DEP number today. And the number is 0282796.
2796?
Yeah.
So we're,
Gradwell proposes the acceptance of NOI 28-2796, 30 Atlantic Road, Mr. Kruger.
Cook, seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier.
yes.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
And Chairman Gullah and Co-Chairwoman Jackson are both recused on making a note. Thank you.
Let me just say thank you to the commission and you, Adrian, for all the help you gave me.
You're welcome. We're moving forward.
Okay. Let it be on the record that Commissioner Jackson has rejoined the commission. And we will take up NOI 028 unassigned DEP number at 33 King Philip Road, represented by Baker. Do we have Mr. or
Yeah.
Ms. Baker? We do.
Hi, this is
Hi.
Deb Colbert with Hancock Associates,
Okay.
representing Mr. Baker at 33 King Philip Road. Adrian, do you have the plan that you can show us?
I'm trying to load it up. Unfortunately, it's inside of the notice of intent application. And when oh no.
If you share, if you allow me to share, I can pull mine up.
I will have to because I just made a mistake here. I'll have to make you a co-host and then you can take over the screen. I typically don't do this tonight, but at all, but I have to tell you all, my mouse just died and I'm upside down. I can't, I cannot function without it, apparently. So you, Deb, should now be a co-host and therefore you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Deb Colbert with Hancock Associates. And Mr. and Mrs. Baker live at 33 King Philip Road. They live across the street from a salt marsh, and on their property, they also have FEMA elevation of 13 for flood zone. And then Coastal Bank, top of Coastal Bank is right here along the edge of this right of way. They are proposing to add a garage next to their house and remove a lot of existing impervious in order to put that garage in. The buffer zones to the salt marsh, here's the 100-foot buffer back here. And then here's the 100-foot buffer zone to Coastal Bank. The net impervious is less than 300 square feet. By reducing the pavement of the driveway, reducing this private way paved area, turning this into gravel. That being said, we also are concerned about pollutants going into the salt marsh, obviously. So we are proposing a trench along here to capture any of that runoff. There is also some trees on the property over here that that are either dead or dying because they're being choked off, or there is gypsy moths that have eliminated them, and they're very, very dangerous to anyone driving up here and turning around. So we're hoping that you will go on a site visit and review the site and give us some recommendations on what we need to do in order to go forward with this proposed garage.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
I'm going to open this up for public comment, and we will take all public comments and then give you an opportunity to respond to them prior to commissioner comments. So let's open it up for public comments. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on the project at 33 King Philip Road?
There are 7 attendees currently with the public, and I do not see any hands up at this time.
Okay, then we will close the public comment period. Commissioner comments?
Sure, commissioner comments. Commissioner Charpentier.
I like that I guess you'd call it that barrier or a catch basin. I think that that's a really good addition. And otherwise, I don't have any other comments.
Commissioner Cook.
It's a minor question. It says proposed gravel, and then underneath it, it says hammerhead.
Well,
I don't
what,
under-
so instead of just ending the private driveway here, in order for fire trucks to turn around, they need a hammerhead turnaround in order to come in if there were to be a fire, treat the fire, and then turn around. So they, instead of taking all of this impervious out, we needed to leave a hammerhead for the turnaround. So we're proposing to have that be gravel instead of paved.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
You're welcome.
Okay, Commissioner Gradwell.
No further comment?
Commissioner Sargent.
I noticed that you are adding an additional 334 feet of impervious surface, and I'm suggesting that there needs to be some mitigation planting and with some monitoring for that. And there would obviously need to be much more detail for the tree removal along King Philip Road.
Yep, we plan on mitigating the runoff right here in this infiltration trench. And we did not want to presume to put in a lot of tree plantings without your guidance. So we would love to have a site walk and gain some insight as far as what kind of plantings you'd like, but happy to add plantings.
And now Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes, in terms of plantings, we do not normally suggest species plant. We do request that you take them from the native plant list published by Massachusetts. And we usually request that they provide the same kinds of functions for habitat, feeding, shelter, as the ones that are being removed in a ratio of 2 to 1. So if you're removing full-grown trees, we'd like to see 2 to 1 trees replaced. If you're removing shrubbery and vegetation, we'd like to see some shrubs replanted. So there's some guidance there. Do you know, can you give me the dimensions of the crushed stone infiltration trench?
Yeah, it's a 2-foot wide trench, and it's, I don't have the dimension on the length of it. 12, 24, 36, 48, 50 feet long.
Okay. You certainly would get some credit for that in terms of the mitigation. So that's 100 square feet. So that leaves you with basically 558 left to go.
There's
Go ahead.
the increase impervious is approximately 200 and something. So
Well, according to your table, it is more than that. It goes from 3208 to 3542, and in your documentation, it's listed as 334 square feet.
okay, sorry.
That's okay, not a problem. We all approach math differently. Okay. So that's kind of where we are on the mitigation. I don't think I actually have an awful lot of questions about the project. It sounds delightful. Adrian, do you have comments on this?
No, I think this is a fairly standard single family home, project. We do need to work on the site, and certainly, Deb, if you want us to come out, I can certainly arrange for a site visit and see if I can get 1 or 2 others to come out for it, to look at where we may be able to install those plantings. I think that the site itself, if it isn't hosting the the home itself, it actually doesn't have a lot of space for planting. So that may be part of the conversation that we have and trying to figure out how to handle that mitigation. But otherwise, no, I mean, I think a lot of what the commission would normally ask for has been taken into consideration here.
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be great. I really would appreciate a site walk. I know that
Sure.
we can put plantings in along the right of way. We cannot block the right of way, even though it is a private right of way and no one accesses it. But where these trees are coming down, we would definitely would like to have some input or guidance from you guys. And we don't have a DEP number yet, so we're gonna have to continue anyways.
We are, and
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And while we'd love to have 2-to-1 mitigation, we're not 100% strict about it. So we'll get it figured out with you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, then if there's no further discussion on this project tonight, I will entertain, when would you like to continue it to?
To the next hearing, which I believe is
Okay,
September.
September 1?
Yep,
Okay. Okay, then I will entertain a motion to continue this.
Well, provided we can start the meeting of September 1 at 4 o'clock. Charpentier moves to move the project NOI 028, no DEP number at 33 King Philip Road to the meeting of September 1.
Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Cook.
Yes, and just let me know when you want to do a site walk, Adrian.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes, and I'll go along and keep Mr. Cook company.
thank you. Commissioner Sargent.
Yes, and I'll be the third musketeer.
Have fun. And Chairwoman Jackson,
Yes.
thank you. We are
Thank you
moved to the first.
did I miss something in the joke about 4 o'clock? Are you serious?
No, no,
No.
she was kidding. Sorry.
It's gonna be a long night though, my
Yeah.
God.
It's just commissioner humor.
No, that's fine. I love it. It's great. We need humor these days, any which way we can get it.
You do, and commissioners and Adrian will see you at the site visit.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you handling number 4 Harbor Road too?
I am,
What would you like to just hold on to the screen?
sure. Let
Okay,
me,
then next up is NOI 028 unassigned DEP number at 4 Harbor Road with Hancock Associates representing Smith.
let's just make sure we get the right plan this time. Great, perfect. Good evening, everyone. This is Deb Colbert with Hancock Associates representing Mr. and Mrs. Smith at 4 Harbor Road, which is right over by Good Harbor Beach, if you're not familiar with it. And Good Harbor Beach is this direction. And there is a small wetlands behind, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bass Rocks Beach Club, but behind Bass Rocks, behind Bass Rocks Beach Club, there is a small wetlands back here, and there is also an intermittent stream, not a perennial stream. So the buffer zones to those two resources are shown on the plan. The 100-foot buffer zone to the intermittent stream is here, and the 100-foot buffer zone to the BBW is here. Mr. and Mrs. Smith bought this cottage, and that's what it is. It's a cottage, and they're hoping to take it down and rebuild their year-round property and host their family here. They are proposing a 2-story frame house with a garage underneath, deck and patio below. They're hoping to get a bocce court in here and then also a fire pit. The plans are in the works, And because of the increased runoff from increased impervious from this construction, even though we are putting in pervious driveways and pervious pavers in order to mitigate that runoff, we are going to have to do a water quality swale and an infiltration basin back here. Oh, and I also neglected to state, there is the 100-year floodplain, which is elevation 16. So we're in a very tight space to mitigate the runoff. And so we're hoping to put it in this back corner. Questions?
We're going to open this up for public comment first.
Yep.
And we will take all public comment at once and then let you respond. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 4 Harbor Road?
Okay, so I have Sandy Palmer, your hand is up. I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Go ahead. Oops, I'm sorry, I muted you. Hold on. It's a trackpad.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Sandra Palmer, 8 Harbor Road.
Okay. And your comment?
Yes, so some questions actually, and comments. So I don't know what exactly you meant by a cottage, but it actually was my grandparents' home. It was a home where they raised 4 children. So I don't, it wasn't a summer cottage or otherwise, it was a home that they used. So I'm not really sure what was intended by that, but yeah, so just a bunch of questions and looking, there's a lot. There's an 8-page letter included with this. And I had a lot of questions about the impervious surfaces table. And I guess to look on page 2, they're not numbered, but it's the second page of the impervious surfaces table. And I just don't understand the proposed, first of all, with the existing square footage, it says 2,400. I believe the house is 1,800, but I guess they're including the porch stairs. And then the new proposed, the 3,905, is that house or porch stairs? What exactly is that? And what does it consist of in each, aspect of either porch or stairs and porch or house? And what maybe the dimensions of the house as well. I don't really see that on the I can't really see that on the plan. It's very small, or if it's there.
Yeah, no, the dimensions are not on the plan. The client is still working through the dimensions with their architect to finalize the details of the plan. And the 3,900 square feet as opposed to the 2,400 is the existing house with the deck, and then the new house with the new deck and porch.
Oh, so the 3,905 is not just the house, it includes the deck square footage as well, I guess, of the, and if you're looking at the footprint of the house, is that footprint of the house just house? And then I just don't see, do you know the square footages of either of those? I'm curious what those are.
I do not off the top of my head know the square footages of the existing house versus proposed house, but the impervious is always taken for the house itself and then also any other impervious areas on the property. So we compare existing impervious to proposed impervious. And it's not just the house that's taken into consideration. It's or the footprint of the house. It's also there's a overhang of the roof. And we can, I thought that sketches of the house were included in the application. Adrian, am I incorrect?
No, there were some architecturals.
Yeah.
I can pull it up.
So meaning the roof.
Go ahead.
If I could interrupt this just for a moment. I also had questions about the chart, so maybe we could clarify that as in commissioner comments as well.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, did you have any other questions or comments, ma'am?
Yeah, I do. So so I guess I don't see how the impervious surfaces number, the proposed, adds up from what is there. If the house
And I-
porch stairs is 3905. And then you kind of explained just now the roof line, I guess, is 3211. So I'm guessing that's just the roof, just the house, square footage of the roof. But I don't, shouldn't those numbers add up to a different number at the top if they're included in the impervious?
And
Uh,
that's something we're going to be discussing with commissioner comments
Okay.
as well. So maybe we can get
Okay.
it
And then
clarified.
Sure, and I guess the other things that came up with that question are the walls, because there's a side wall that already exists, a rear wall that's on there, and then a proposed new side wall. Just wanted to know if those were part of the impervious. And then the existing shed, so also speaking about the also impervious, but how does that work when it's not where it's too close to the rear border to begin with? Is that that will stay there regardless? Sorry, is this frozen?
I think that people can rebuild where things are.
Sorry about that.
That's
My
okay. Would you like to
computer-
respond to that?
My computer just died, so I am so sorry. I'd like to pull, Adrian, well, you probably can't pull
Oh,
up.
I can. Just stand by. I'm just slow moving with a trackpad. That's all.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, that's the project.
Just seeing you, Adrian.
Oh, sorry. This is not helpful. Hold on.
Oh, you gotta take the screen back.
Now we're seeing Linda.
There we go.
Oh, there we
There
go.
it is.
Okay. Okay, Sandy, did you have any other comments? Have we lost her?
Nope, Sandy's.
Yes, so just I hadn't quite finished with that chart. I hadn't quite finished with the chart. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Yes, so there's also a natural stone patio delineated on the plan that we have there, and I don't see that in the square footage. That was the other comment on that. So down to the right, water side, far right corner, this the natural, that I don't see that in the square footage either. So just looking at the impervious surfaces, those are some questions. I think that was it for the impervious surface. It sounds like the bocce court is not an issue for that. I don't know, but anyway, that's there. Okay. And oh yes, the ledge, sorry, ledge. I had a question about the ledge and the accuracy of that number. Knowing the property as I do, there's a lot of ledge under the front porch. And those boulders, I'm wondering if they're just boulders, if they're also ledge. So just a question on that, or a comment on that square footage, if it's really accurate, because if you look at the house under that front porch, there's a lot of ledge there. And also, I guess my other question there is blasting. I don't know if that comes into the Conservation Commission questions here as well, but that front porch area that's proposed, even if it's coming out 15 more feet, where it is now, there's under the current porch, there was significant ledge there. And I think that's it for the impervious question. And I had questions about the slope. There's quite a steep slope towards the back of the house, and that goes down to the beach club property there. And just wondering how that is taken into account as well. And then the last point, I guess, is these, I don't quite understand. They look a little different on what I pulled up, but on the plan that I have that I got off the site, there's a water quality swale and an infiltration basin that seem to go onto the next property. And I just had a question about that, if that's the case. I don't see them on this one, but on the one that I have, they're there. So it's a different plan that I have. And there's also a square building type thing at the end of the porch here that's on my plan that I got off of your website that's not on this. So I don't know if something has changed. So those were just some questions that popped up with what I'm looking at. And then I guess a couple of comments just to leave it with that, that these other properties on the street have been built outside the buffer zone. And I think that was kind of done, you know, up Harbor Road. And I was concerned and wondering how much you're going to encroach back toward that as well, when it's already, you know, in there as well. And let's see. I had one more point I thought. Oh, just that, there's this very significant change in footprint. It's saying that 9%. Haven't figured the numbers. The numbers don't always come together when I'm trying to figure, because I don't have the dimensions of the new house. I don't have the dimensions of the existing home, but it said it's at 9% and it's going to 23%. And I know the limit is 25. So just, it would be interesting to know what the actual dimensions are of the house to know that. And I assume that's just house, not decks. So, and then the last point, I guess, is that we've had some issues in the neighborhood with just snow, dealing with snow and removal of snow and where to put snow, which may not apply to any of this except for it is water. But I'm just wondering about that with a wall and a long driveway all the way to the back and, you know, more moisture in general, just a thought, may not come into play. But I think those are my issues, but I'm having a hard time with the numbers. I don't quite understand them from what's there. And I'd like to know exactly what the building size was to determine those. But anyway, thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Is there anybody else who wishes to comment on the project at 4 Harbor Road?
I see no other members of the public to comment at this time.
Okay, then I'll close the public comment period. Adrian, do you have any input on this property?
This is a significant increase in impervious for the construction. I do think we can walk through the numbers with regard to what's there in place now and what we're accounting for as new impervious. I would like to see a landscape plan attached to this because we're doing so much new construction and it looks like the entire site is going to be touched here with a patio and the bocce court. I'm not sure you're going to be able to make your drainage requirements with just that small swale. So hopefully we can see some rain gardens and tree plantings on the property to try to take up some of that new water that the site is going to produce. But you want me to go through comments? I'd be happy to. Commissioner Charpentier.
Well, I echo those comments as well. I'm concerned about the stormwater on the property and the drainage. And I know in the past, we did consider snow plowing and so forth. So my concerns are that, and my concerns are that we don't have the final dimensions to talk about this at this point. That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Cook.
Yeah, I pretty much echo everything that's been said. I do think that the bocce court, if it's going to be stone dust, I believe stone dust hardens over a period of time, so that needs to be considered as impervious also. So that's just going to add a lot more to the required plantings that are going to be in here. And we definitely need a lot of work as far as drainage goes. But we need final dimensions. I mean, we can't do anything without final dimensions.
Commissioner Gradwell.
We don't even have dimensions on the bocce court. It looks like there's one tree that's going to be removed there. Do you have a total of how many trees are going to be removed, Deb?
Yes, right now there's approximately 3 trees that are going to be removed. There's
So along with everything else, that has to be considered.
Yep.
Mr. Cook brought up a good point. Is the bocce court going to be stone dust?
Yes, it is.
That's impervious.
It, according to our regulations, we will look at it further when we get into our stormwater runoff and mitigation numbers. We did not include that as impervious, but we will look at it.
Thank you.
Yep. We are also taking down some fencing along this, the abutters properties and putting up stone walls and trying to make for a more conducive environment to the neighborhood.
Well, at that point, it doesn't sound like your plans are very complete. And anything that we discussed tonight's going to be overrun when we get the final numbers.
Yep, well, we appreciate your input and comments. We would love to do a site walk.
We can pack that one on there too. All right, let me go forward with Commissioner Sargent.
On the positive side, I did appreciate all the information with the test pit data as well as the wetland delineation. You know, to me, that technical information really lets me know how the site functions. But again, I think there needs to be some mitigation plantings for the new impervious surfaces within the buffer zones, you know, with a monitoring for at least 2 to 3 years.
Okay. And Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes, I'm going to go right back to the impact calculations. And I'm wondering if that chart could be revised to make it a little easier to understand. For example, when you have proposed house porch and stairs as 3905 square feet, and then you have roof line as 3211, does that mean that 700 square feet of the house is not covered? And what I would like something that shows me what is impervious now in the different categories, what is going to be impervious without duplicating, for example, house and roof line, and then the difference between the two so that we have some sense of what is going to be the increase in impervious. The patio, it does show that there is no change. It goes from 0 to 0 for impervious patios, but I'm not sure what that means for the patio that you're proposing. Is it pervious? Is it impervious? That kind of thing. And you did count the bocce court area as impervious. So that's wonderful. That's 621 square feet as proposed impervious. And I appreciate that. But if you could just make that a little bit clearer so that we can figure out and add up totals, that would be greatly appreciated, both by the neighbor and by me. And what else did I have here? There was a hot tub. One of the things that happens with hot tubs is you have to drain them periodically. And so I would want to know how that's going to be drained. Are you going to let it sit for a few days to let the chemicals dissipate before it's drained? More detail on the landscape plan. You talked about 4,588 square feet of landscaping, including manicured lawn. We're fine with manicured lawn, but we don't usually count that as part of the mitigation. So there are some details that we'd like to see cleaned up. I'm sure a site visit will help clarify some of this for everybody.
Yes. So there are two things happening here, right? We're and I just want clarification to make sure that we're all speaking the same language. In regards to impervious versus pervious is one category, and stormwater. And Gloucester has a stormwater permit that we have to go through with them. And we have to mitigate any increase in the impervious and make sure that no increased runoff goes off the property. That's one basket. Then we have another basket that is jurisdictional for the Conservation Commission in regards to disturbances within the buffer zones. So I know they go hand in hand, but you know, as far as mitigating and tree planting and landscaping, I feel that that's in this basket versus the impervious that's in this basket. So I just want clarification on that, just to make sure that we're talking, you know, the same language.
When you are doing all of this activity, it is impacting the resource areas and the buffer zones within those, and we're trying to mitigate against those impacts. And that we have found that it is effective to do so by requiring essentially, if at all possible, a 2-to-1 landscaping with similar, as I mentioned earlier on the other project, with similar functioning landscapes, you know, the appropriate trees, the appropriate shrubs, low canopy, high canopy, that kind of thing, to provide the same functions. You're doing an awful lot on this lot, and you've got drainage requirements, you've got mitigation requirements. And if we can get a clear idea of the size of the lot, the existing impervious surfaces, the square footage, and the proposed impervious surfaces, square footage, then we can start planning, and where those surfaces are located, then we can start planning with you the best mitigation and the locations of that mitigation.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I will do a color-coded plan showing the impervious and the disturbances and make it much more clearer for everyone to understand.
That would be wonderful. You would
Great.
earn my undying gratitude.
Okay, no problem. Fabulous.
Okay, good. Then we have to continue this for both a DEP number as well as for a site visit. So is there anything else that we need to take up before we do that?
I'm good.
Linda, do you want to move on that then?
We need a date for continuance,
Yes, we do.
and
When
let's
would you-
not make it September 1st.
That's fine. We can go after September 1st because we do have a
Okay.
lot of work still to be done.
Okay,
So what's
And
the
we-
date after September 1st?
the 15th,
Okay.
thank
And if
you.
we-
We did that too.
And Adrian, if we can schedule a site walk, that'd be fabulous. I know that you guys have a lot going on and Labor Day's in there, so it can be after Labor Day. Well, Labor Day's late,
It's kind of late this year.
but we'll coordinate.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Ready?
I'm not-
Yeah, Charpentier moves to continue the project NOI 028, no DEP number at 4 Harbor Road to the meeting of September 15th.
And Gradwell seconds.
And a roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for your service, and I'll see you around the bend.
You bet. Okay,
Yeah. Bye.
bye-bye. Have a good evening. Okay, next up, we have NOI 0. Does anybody need a break, or shall we
Commissioner,
just plow through?
can I have just a 1 minute or a 2 minute break?
We can give you 3 minutes, Adrian.
How about a 3-minute break?
5.
All right, we're calling a 3-minute break. We will re-adjourn at 7:58
Okay, thank you.
or close thereof.
Barry, I missed the chocolate.
My chocolate bill has gone down appreciably,
I'm sure
especially
it
with Ann
has.
Joe. Ann Joe, you're doing a very nice job. I appreciate your telling them that we will not specify what kinds of trees. We have to be careful about that, and you're handling it very, very well.
Well, thank you, Barry. I appreciate that. We do have to be careful about that. I agree completely. I've talked with Rob in past years about that. That it's not our place. It's the applicant's decision. And we get to say yay or nay.
Right, we're an approval. We're an approval, not an engineering.
Well, my recollection is that John Feener used to make suggestions about the types of trees that would be planted in certain areas. Like he would say, you know, this type of tree is not going to do well here because of whatever, because he had that expertise.
But that better comes from somebody that is not on the commission.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh. But I certainly did enjoy the continued business section.
Yeah, that was sailed right through that one.
Yeah, you sure did.
Now, if we put anything, we can't put anything more on September 1st. That's it.
There's a lot on September 1st.
There's yeah. And what happens is, you know, after about 8:30, the people who are still waiting don't get, everybody starts getting tired.
They do.
So I think that
at least in a public meeting, we could have a coffee pot and pass out coffee.
yeah. Well, I
The
always have mine with me.
Adrian should have some indication of how many new ones are going to be filed for September 1st also at this point.
Right.
We have 5 new. 5 new hearings. Can you all hear me? I'm back, by the way.
We hear
Excellent.
that. We hear that. We don't see you, but we hear you.
Oh,
Okay, and it's 8 o'clock and we've had a 5-minute break. I hope you guys enjoyed the extra 2 minutes.
All right.
Okay,
Moving right
commission is
along.
back in session and we are now on NOI 028. Adrian, you're ready, right?
I'm ready. Go ahead.
Okay, we're on NOI 028 on assigned DEP number at 49 Norwood Heights by Norwood Heights Trust. Do we have a representative?
We do. David Smith here from GZA Geoenvironmental. I'm here representing the applicant, which is Ipswich Bay Homestead LLC, in care of Irving Rogers at 49 Norwood Heights. And this project is a proposed seawall erosion protection project located at 49 Norwood Heights. The site is a single-family home that leads out to the north over towards Ipswich Bay with a meticulously manicured lawn that extends down to a granite block seawall and stone riprap. I believe it's remnants of an old wall out onto ledge outcrops that extend out into the bay. There was an order of conditions issued back in 2014 for that seawall that was rebuilt. Previous to that, it was just a failed wall with the stone. New granite blocks were placed there and, they did a good job. And a certificate of compliance was issued in 2018 for that work. Since that time, Adrian, if you can go back to the photos, I think that might tell the tale here. So right on the landward side of that granite wall is some gravel and small stones. And what has happened is that in storm events, the waves come up, hit the stone revetment, go over the wall and sort of crash down on that gravel area, and it disperses all those stones out into the lawn. So Mr. Rogers wants to be able to avoid that from occurring anymore. And so we're proposing a stone gabion mattress, which is going to replace just that loose gravel there. And also in that loose gravel area, it's settled a bit up to 8 inches behind those granite block walls. So there is some soil loss that's occurring because of those stones. And again, they get swept onto the lawn or displaced onto the lawn, and the owners have to kind of put them back. So what we're proposing is in that same limit where the gravel is to excavate it out, go down 9 inches deep, and it's a 3-foot wide gabion mattress. It's essentially a like cage, like a chain link fence type cage, and it's filled with 8-inch minus stone, and then that cage is sealed up. It's also going to be pinned and tied to the backside of that seawall, those capstones that you see in the photograph. And then the manicured lawn will just be brought right up to those gabion mattresses. So it's really just to avoid those loose stones from being displaced on every storm event, and also trying to alleviate some of the erosion that's occurring within that area. So that gravel strip behind that seawall, it's about 143 foot long along that length, and it varies from 3 to 4 feet wide. These gabion mattresses come in 3-foot increments, so we wanted to just keep it at 3 feet, and whatever is left over in the gravel will be removed, and some loam will be brought in and extending that lawn right up to the gabion edge. We're anticipating small type equipment to be utilized here. On the east side of the house, access comes right along from the driveway down to this site. It's going to be construction mats will be placed to protect the lawn down to the area behind the wall. We're envisioning probably a mini excavator, maybe a small skid steer, to be able to excavate that out, remove the material. Baskets can be brought in by hand, and then that stone fill can be brought in, by the small machinery and placed by hand. And then, once that's done and all tied together and stabilized, then the loam will be placed and reseeded right up to that edge, and the equipment is removed. So that's the project.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to open this project up for public comment, and we will take all public comments, and then you can respond to those, and then we will go through commissioner questions. So at this time, I will open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 49 Norwood Heights?
There are now 5 attendees with the public and no hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. I will close the public comment period. Adrian, do you have some input on this?
No, I think this is a pretty straightforward project, and I don't think that there is another way to solve the problem. I'm actually very pleased to see that there is going to be an effort to be made here to try to hold in the loose stone that was originally installed. Of course, I'm sure that the small crushed stone was the best solution at the time, but of course, it must be absolutely strewn across this beautiful lawn when the tide comes in. And so this, I believe, is the only answer. I'm very pleased to see that all the work can be done on the landward side of that, the cap of that embankment and the top of the bank. So this is probably the most sensitive way to improve the problem with the loose stone.
Okay, thank you. How about roll call for commissioners on comments?
Sure. Commissioner Charpentier,
No comments?
Commissioner Cook.
Just one question. All the stone that you're taking out, is that going to be moved off-site?
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Just to make sure that the elevation doesn't change so that we're not armoring the bank.
Commissioner Sargent.
This is a high velocity area, and I think this is a good project.
And Chairwoman Jackson.
I think it's a good project too. I thought it was a really interesting project. But I did not know what these were, so I looked them up. And one of the comments was the wire baskets used for gabions may be subject to heavy wear and tear due to wire abrasion by bed load movement in streams with high velocity flow, difficult to install, requiring large equipment. But I wondered if you could comment, that one about the wear and tear concerned me a little bit. I wondered if you could comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did one in 2013 up in Beverly, Pride's Crossing. And it's behind a large granite seawall, and these mattresses are 30 feet wide. So it's from the edge of the seawall back landward 30 feet for a length of, I believe it's over 150 feet long, 8 inches thick. And I actually visited the site last fall, and I was actually pretty surprised that it's held up as good as it has. And this is really heavy duty wire. It's galvanized and then it's coated. And I kind of figured, given the exposure and the exposure in my mind at the Beverly site is far more greater than this site, because it just vertically, the waves hit this vertical wall and the waves just impact this site. And that's the reason why we went 30 feet deep. But I was amazed at how well the coating has held up in 8 years. A little around 8 years. So it does very well. It's expensive. It's not a cheap product, but if installed properly, and we are going to have fabric underneath it to be able to handle the drainage when it does get inundated with waves. So yeah, it's a good product, and it does last.
Okay.
Yep.
I will take your word for it. Thank you very much. Okay. Are there any other comments from commissioners or any further discussion?
There was one thing, it says that it requires permitting. What kind of permitting does this require? Or is this what you're looking at when you're putting down as Gabby and Matt?
This is the only permit that we'd be going for here is the.
Okay, I
secret
just
order
wanted to make
conditions,
sure there wasn't some other requirement that had to be met.
Nope.
Okay, then Linda?
We need to continue this. So do we have a date?
You're correct.
I think we can let this one slide through. That'll be listen. This will be an easy one.
Slide through to September 1st.
It's already ready to go.
Yep. Okay, Charpentier moves to continue the project at NOI 028, no DEP number, at 49 Norwood Heights to the meeting of September 1st.
Bradwell seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier.
Yes.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent.
Yes.
And Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
It's a neat project.
Next.
And next up, I think we may have you again. We have NOI 028 with an unassigned DEP number for 31 Eastern Point Road, representing for Schwartz.
Actually, Adrian, if you could make Joshua Zoll a presenter, he's my coworker and he's going to take this one.
All right.
Okay.
There you are. Okay.
Can you hear me? Or
We can
see
hear
me?
and
Okay,
see you.
there we go. Excellent. So my name is Joshua Zoll with GZA Geoenvironmental, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Schwartz for the proposed shoreline improvement project at 31 Eastern Point Road. The site, like I said, is at 31 Eastern Point Road. And the area where we're proposing to do the work is down at the existing revetment. If you could zoom in there, Adrian. Awesome, thank you. There is an existing revetment. It's a granite slab revetment right along the shoreline down there, adjacent to the coastal beach. There is currently a lot of erosion and undermining on the existing caps, the capstones across there. And if you can see in the pictures, yeah, that top right one, you can see there's some erosion, some undermining. There's even some overturning of those top capstones. This revetment seems to act more as a ramp than a way to dissipate wave energy. There's also, where you were just hovering with your mouse, there's a low depression in the lawn, kind of in the middle, and right there is where there's the undermining and the scouring. So what we're proposing to do is come in and remove the existing revetment and put in a more robust revetment with armor stone, not kind of a smooth ramp, more of a jagged face, to help break up the wave energy and to dissipate that wave energy across the site. Also included in the project, we're planning to raise that revetment, the top of the revetment, up by nearly a foot with some limited grading in the backland, to try and remove that depressed area right behind the wall, right behind the revetment. And the proposed work is all going to be within the existing footprint of the existing revetment. So there isn't any plan to expand or extend the revetment aside from that raise at the top. That's about the extent of the project.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to open this up first for public comment. We'll take any comments from the public and then let you respond. And then we will go through with commissioner comments.
Okay.
So at this time, I will open it up to the public to comment on the project at 31 Eastern Point Road. If there is anybody who wishes to comment, you can press the raise your hand button or dial *9 on your smartphone.
Okay, so there are currently 4 attendees now that Joshua is with the panelists, and there are no hands this time.
No hands. Okay, then I'll close the public comment period. Adrian, your thoughts on this project?
Well, I think, this kind of thing is necessary. I'm a little bit sensitive about coastal bank standards here, where you're going to be raising the top of it. I think you're going to have to work pretty hard to describe a reason for doing that. I think I remember seeing on the plans that you do have the cross section of the coastal bank. But what I'm curious to know is, you're talking about sort of trying to break up the wave energy by installing what's not going to be a flat face, but in fact, more of an angular face.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if that is reflected in sheet 3 of the plans. I'm looking at it right now. I think all we got was the cross section, which of course we do need.
Yep. Is it not shown on there? All I'm seeing is the plan right now, Adrian.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So I
That's
have.
okay.
I'm over here looking at my other screen. I have.
Yeah. So that proposed section AA. Typically, what we draw the kind of the best fit line across there as you're looking at that cross section. But in actuality, the stones can be anywhere from 8 to 12 inches above or below that line to make more of a jagged face and not just a smooth ramp.
Okay.
I think it might just be a drawing issue on that one cross section.
Okay. That's really all I have. You have to try to repair the seawall, of course, and understanding that it's going to start to fall apart if we don't do something. So,
Exactly. And then the erosion behind the wall will just continue.
so
Okay, if you have no other comments, we can do roll call for commissioners.
sure, Commissioner Charpentier.
Just one question. This work is all going to be done from the land side?
That's the intent. Yep. I think we might have to bring in some material during a big high tide by barge. That's an option. But ideally, everything is staged from the shore.
Okay, that's all I had.
Commissioner Cook.
The stones that you're going to be putting in, these aren't, it says armor stone. Are they man-made so that they're of a consistent size and dimension?
Nope, they will not be. They'll be either blasted out of a quarry or they're not dimensional stone, if that's what you're asking. They won't all be the same size, width, depth, and length. They're all going to be angular stone. The idea is to not get blocks. The idea is to get angular shapes, different shapes, for lack of a better word. And the intent is to have as much interlocking between the adjacent stones so that you make a nice solid revetment.
Okay. Then the only concern that I have is raising the wall up. That's always an issue. Really need to see if DEP pushes back hard on that.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Commissioner Gradwell.
Building it higher leaves it subject to armoring a bank, which is going to be a problem. As you add that extra block to armor the bank, what are you doing about the filter fabric that was behind the wall as it existed? Are you going to continue on? I didn't see anything.
I don't believe the existing wall has filter fabric or anything below it. I think it was just small stone with the dimensional block laid on top of it. But the proposed filter fabric is going to extend up to the top of the existing stone, the proposed stone. And when I say we're raising it, I just mean vertically. We're not expanding landward of the existing revetment.
Well, you have to be expanding landwards because you're moving it back at the same angle.
Correct. Yes. Sorry. Yes, you're correct.
Okay. And you have to prove that this is not armoring a bank.
Okay. Understood. I will have to get back to you on that, and we'll look at that.
Well, you have to get back on anything. We can't pass anything.
Exactly.
I'm all set.
Okay. Commissioner Sargent.
I know that, a barge is proposed to be used potentially, and there's mapped eelgrass beds off of the site, and care needs to be taken care of. And I'd like to know what mitigation measures you're going to be utilizing to make sure that those eelgrass beds aren't impacted. And I want to make sure that the revetment is not going to be extended seaward at all. And I agree that the site, that littoral drift is not an issue. However, I'm wondering if the function of the coastal bank to supply sediment to the beach will be compromised by the use of filter fabric. The beach does provide important protection to the revetment as it now stands. So it's something for you to consider, the functionality of that coastal bank.
And Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes, I echo some of the above comments, absolutely. And I do want to, somewhere in your plans, it was mentioned that in the future, they may be considering a temporary ramp for beach access. I just want to make it very clear that we would not be voting on that. It would not be included in any potential order of conditions.
That's understood. We just wanted to put that on there.
And that's fine. I just want to make it equally clear that we're not approving it. if we
Yeah,
approve
no,
the project.
understood.
Okay, thank you. Just glad we clarified that.
Yep, yep.
I have no other comments. Okay, so you have some homework to do. We need a DEP number. When did you want to continue this to?
Ideally, September 1st.
Hey, why not? All right, September 1st.
Could I just ask, what's going to happen to all the existing stone?
It's all going to be taken off site with the exception of some potential use for stone benches up in the backland area.
Okay.
I think it shows on the plan there.
Okay.
All right, Charpentier moves to continue the project NOI 028 with no assigned DEP number at 31 Eastern Point Road to the meeting of September 1st.
Gradwell seconds.
And roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell. Commissioner Gradwell,
Barry, you're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
you
Thank
too.
you.
Okay, under other commission business, we have a minor modification for 3 Cushing Lane. David S. Kelly representing McLaughlin.
All right.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening. Like to tell us, identify your name and address and tell us about the modification.
Sure. My camera's not working for some reason. My name is David Kelly with Meridian Associates. I'm here on behalf of Patricia McLaughlin regarding, there we go, let's try that. There we go. Regarding a proposed patio, deck, and pool area at the rear of their house. A year ago to the day, pretty much, you issued an order of conditions for the work behind the house. And as time went on and we looked at construction costs, there became issues. So we scaled back the project a little bit, reconfigured the design to put the pool to the side of the house. We pushed the deck and patio closer to the house, reducing the disturbance within the buffer zone by 1,700 square feet. We left the previously approved mitigation as is. And that's basically it. So
Sounds good to
previously we
me.
had a retaining wall that went all the way around the house, starting up by the overhead wires and then to the north of the house and then going all the way around. And it was a lot closer to the resource, to the to that mitigation area.
Okay. Okay.
And we still provide an underground drainage system to handle the runoff from the impervious areas. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. I'll
very
open this public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to comment on the minor modification at 3 Cushing Lane?
Let me see. Hold on. I have no attendees. Everyone's gone.
Okay.
There are only 3 of us on.
They've abandoned us.
There's
Okay.
me and Mr. Kelly.
I will close the public comment period. And we'll go through commissioner comments.
Commissioner Charpentier,
no comments.
Commissioner Cook,
No comments.
Commissioner Gradwell,
No comment.
Commissioner Sargent,
No comment.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
No comment. It sounds fine to me. It's always nice to decrease impervious surface. Okay. And keep the same mitigation. Thank you very much for that, by the way.
You're welcome.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
Charpentier moves to accept the minor modification to 3 Cushing Lane.
And Gradwell seconds.
Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes,
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So as a quick side note, I had a meeting last week. I won't tell you where it was. Meeting started at 7. I was 26th on the agenda, got hurt at 11:15.
Oh,
So I hope that September 1st is not that night for you guys.
we have had those nights. They've been a long time ago, but those nights have been there. So
Yep.
thank you. I appreciate your good wishes.
Thank you
And
and
I'm
good
never
luck.
moving there.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
All right.
If we have,
next
if we have
violation.
no outsiders on there, it's important to find out whether Ann Jo is wearing her bunny slippers.
I am not. I am barefoot. I have newly polished toes for a party Friday night. So I'm exercising my toes. Okay, no violations of permit inquiries. So we're on to certificates of compliance for 18 Stanwood Point.
And
How
it
are we
looks
doing on-
delightful out at 18 Stanwood Point. I tell you, you can actually see it from 128 when you're going, just before you get on the bridge. If you look to the right, you can see the house. The applicant actually put a DEP file number at the edge of his dock, so you can see it both from the way at Stanwood Point and also from, you know, the water. The house really looks very nice, and he overbuilt the landscaping with the stormwater management. So I don't have any real concerns about any additional water traveling off that particular site. The plantings were, I think, 30% more than what were expected. So I'm really pleased with it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, Linda, you know what to do.
Charpentier moves to issue a certificate of compliance for RCOC 028-2513, 18 Stanwood Point.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you. So there are no other matters, or a matter not, I just want to circle back to the beginning to the memo. I'm going to circulate that to everyone here. The Board of Health has been on the verge of making a statement for about 2 days now. And so I have had to modify the draft a couple of times in working with our interim director of the Board of Health. And so I'm going to make sure the language is correct for tomorrow.
Okay, when do you anticipate everything being ready for signature? And do we all sign that? Is that what happens?
You don't have to sign it. It will be signed by the chair, by
Oh,
Chairman.
okay.
And I also actually want to point out to you, and well, maybe, I don't know how comfortable you all are with this, but Chairman Gullah left me a signature and had me produce a stamp of his signature. And so I have a wet signature now of his for purposes like signing memos and things like that. If the commission is interested in not coming in to sign paperwork anymore, we can have a stamp produced for you and stamp them. It's totally at your discretion, and you can make it through if you want to. It is, yeah. And so at the DEP now with the digital submissions, if you're using eDEP, it's actually a checkbox, and it's ratified by the minutes because we do a roll call vote. So it's up to you.
We should actually be able to do these things with something like DocuSign.
There are some regional offices and registrars that will accept them through DocuSign. However, the registrar at Essex County or Essex South did agree to do DocuSign. However, the certifier of lands, who is like the evil stepsister or whatever, denied DocuSign.
Well, it'll all go that way in another year or so. So I'm all for, a stamp. I have no problem with it. If we've already voted on it, I see no
Right.
reason.
I mean, you can, when next time you come in to see me, there's no rush to do it, but if you're like, I really hate being bothered to come all the way in.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with a stamp. Would love to do that. Make it easy for everybody and quick.
It's fine. Think it through. Think about how you feel about it. I can see Aunt Joe like.
I like
standing up. She's like, "Oh, I don't know.
I like meetings in person and I like signing, but I'll go with what the commission feels like. I don't feel strongly enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I got a signature page. I got a signature of my stamp of my own signature too as part of this. And it's alarming. It is what can be done, you know?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Once you have it. So anyways, just know it will be in a safe place and in a locked drawer in my office, but that option stands.
That's fine.
Okay, then we will certainly consider it and let you know. And you may have to remind some of us to let you know. When will these be ready for signature?
I'll print them off tomorrow and let's say noontime.
Okay. Noon
Well,
Thursday.
then Charpentier moves to close the meeting.
Okay. Do I
And
hear a
Treadwell
second?
seconds.
And a roll call. Commissioner Charpentier,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gradwell,
Yes,
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right, everybody.
you all.
Thank
Good night.
Good night.
you. And
everybody stay safe.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
where am I? I'm over here.